Efrat, great to have you here.
Thank you, Michael. How
Thank
are you?
Fantastic. So you're talking from Sunnyvale?
I'm in Sunnyvale. It's raining again, although
Wow.
they say it's Sunnyvale.
Although- Well, this is gonna be published in May, so hopefully by then it's
By
gonna be
then it's going to be really sunny in Sunnyvale.
it's gonna
Yeah.
be really sunny in Sunnyvale. Fantastic. I'm in Southern California with this little dude, who's not giving me any quiet and peace right now, but
What's
that's
his
okay.
name?
His name is Benny.
Benny.
Benny, because in Hebrew it's like
After Benny Gantz and Benny Netanyahu.
why? He took it a little far, Efrat.
We're not going to tell which one.
Yeah, no, in Hebrew it's actually my son, Bni,
Oh, that's why.
and he's already my best friend, and
So cute.
he's gonna be a wonderful little mensch. So Efrat, you're
Yes.
widely considered as one of the world experts on talent acquisition and hiring the best talent, and really what is recruitment all about?
Mhm.
How do you even talk about this industry? What is really talent acquisition and recruitment?
What is it? It's getting the best people to work for your company, whichever company that is, developing them, making sure that you add and not subtract, and also making sure that you're poised
Right.
to do whatever the company set up to do.
Yeah. So
So it's really like building the company in a way,
so
building the company, adding the value,
yeah.
all that.
I mean, so on one hand, it seems pretty simple.
Yes.
You want good talent. Yeah, just be more financially attractive than the other people and your competitors, and yeah, and then they'll flock to you. Is that the case, or is it a little bit more complicated than that?
A little bit more complicated. um, Well, it really depends on what area are you hiring for, but in general, there isn't a surplus of talent. And in recent years, I would also say that the immigration situation and everything that's been happening in the world um, has made immigrating for a job harder,
Yeah.
whether in the U.S. and other countries as well in Europe. So I think this creates more of a challenge for companies when they're competing against talent wherever they are. The good talent is scarce, and then you have to really up your game. And it's not just money. Money is not the reason people will come to your company. I mean,
Why is
it
talent
does
scarce?
help. It does help.
But so
Yeah.
let's look at engineering, and
Yeah.
a lot of people are saying that today programming is more of a commodity than a rare skill because so many people have it. We have outsourcing in Asia, and so why is it still difficult to find people that fill in your skill sets that you need for your company?
Because it's not true. Because first of all, let's say this: engineering talent is not all the same, right?
Mm-hmm.
And of course, you can sometimes solve it by outsourcing, but even the last few weeks show how the world isn't really global.
Right.
There are risks in the story, and then you a lot of companies prefer to rely on local talent because it's easier from a lot of perspective. And I'm not saying like the Silicon Valley, very well, is uh, has a lot of immigrants
Yeah.
that came to work here. And I think in previous years that's been like a really good strategy that helped the valley, grow,
Yeah.
etc. But I'm afraid that it's not as easy as it used to be. Secondly, they always say that a good engineer is worth uh, 10 other
Right.
engineers, and I don't know if it's true because I was never an engineer myself, but I would say like not all professionals are created equal in whatever profession you're talking about. So you want to find people with the relevant skills, if it's machine learning or if it's something else. Uh, Not every engineer in the world is the same. Maybe in the future, as maybe computers will do that programming work for us and then it will be simpler. But for now, I think we're not there yet.
So Efrat, I mean, you've had I don't know many people that have had as much talent acquisition experiences you've had, both, in large enterprises. You worked closely with my father back in Google Israel,
Mm-hmm.
and really starting the team in
Mm-hmm.
Israel, which is an incredible team today of over, I think, 1,000 engineers. And now
Mm-hmm.
you've transitioned more into startup scenes, so from Lyft now to Next Insurance. And
Mm-hmm.
what have been some of the trends that you've seen over the past, 15 or 20 years in the tech industry? What are some of the new challenges that are arising, and some of the more, to hindsight or the earned secrets that you've accumulated?
Wow, long answer. I'll try to tackle it.
Long
Thanks.
question,
So
long answer.
first of all, trends during those years. I mean, hiring has transformed completely in the last 15 years. What transformed it? Social networks, LinkedIn has completely changed our profession as recruiters.
Sure.
We couldn't find the amount of people we can find today. We couldn't reach out to them. We couldn't engage with them
How was it
um,
before? What happened before LinkedIn? Just conferences?
before. Um, we had when I worked in 2005 in a global company in Israel, we advertised in the newspaper. It used to cost a lot in the
You would
newspaper.
advertise job openings in the newspaper
In the newspaper.
in
Later, you had like
2005.
internet postings um, and job
Wow.
boards in the internet. Then and agencies, of course. And then companies started building out their internal functions once you started having social networks and LinkedIn,
Yeah.
and that completely changed our profession because we used to be just about like advertising, finding people, and closing, and now we're about engaging with talent, building long-term pipelines, really thinking things more strategically, and pulling a lot of those resources in-house. So building out sourcing divisions in companies and thinking about things, how to develop talent. That use like previously you were just reactive to the market. Whatever you could find, you could find. Um, I think it's also like you have much more bigger internet companies than you used to,
Oh
which
yeah.
completely changed the game. But that's part of it.
Is it, the recruitment process? I got to go through some of the experience, and it seems that, I remember that I went to, when I was looking for a summer internship, a company flew me to Seattle, pampered me with like a 5-star hotel, and
Mm-hmm.
wonderful amenities and everything, and that was before I was even offered a position. That was just before they even knew who I was, just as a potential candidate. Is this
Yes.
what happened before as well?
I don't think so. I mean, so part of what happened is that the focus on candidate experience has completely, it's kind of like the equation kind of flipped, and now candidates were having the upper hand, and that kind of like changed the rules. Like if you were one of like previously, if you were one candidate, you were chosen among 100. There was no reason to kind of like pamper you. But today, candidates have much more power in the equation, and that's why companies do a lot more. Again, the social networks. If you don't even have to interview for a company in order to have an opinion about it or about its hiring process. So you
Right.
can start off a small, drama by posting on Twitter something like how you had a terrible experience, and that can ruin it both for candidates and for customers for that
Sure. I
company.
mean, Glassdoor has a really big part in having candidates fill out reviews on their companies.
So everything is a lot more open, a lot less predictable, and a lot less controllable. And I would say one of the most important things, I mean, pampering someone, flying them over, having that doesn't hurt, I'm sure. But I would say, like, a lot of companies have to really focus on the actual process, getting it right. So, getting to people right on time, making sure they know where they are in the hiring process, communicating
Yeah.
regularly, setting expectations. Those are like the big things.
Sure.
And a lot of like, you can throw a lot of money into like getting candidates to be enthusiastic about stuff, but like you have to get the basics right because it's very explosive, right? Like
Yeah.
I always remember a case where candidates someone tagged me on Facebook when a candidate said that we treated him unfairly in a process somewhere. and I came and I started like communicating and talking to him and saying what went wrong, how can I help, etc. And then he realized it wasn't such a good strategy for him, but whatever. But it's like that couldn't happen years ago. I mean, you
Interesting.
could, but you had to go to a great length in order to actually get that effect once.
So now, okay, so now I want some personal advice because I'm going to be eventually starting my own company, and I'm gonna have to go through, hiring processes and trying to find some of the best people to join me. At what point do you transition from being, a couple of friends in a garage working together to really needing a solid hiring process as you scale? Is that when I'm 5 people, or is that when I'm more like 100 people?
It's really hard to answer. It's kind of like you have to think about long-term growth. How you think, like if you have funding for a few years, maybe you want to start early with that. You don't want to grow too quickly as well because you're going to burn all your uh, money. But I don't think like when it's very small, you need to do that. I would say though, even when you're starting something and it's very small, you do want to take care and think about how do you set the bar. Like the earliest people are really their contribution is very dramatic.
Mm-hmm.
So you want to make sure that the people who join you early are really, really good and really, the kind of culture you want to set for the org. It's like they're sort of like the DNA that you're going to have in your
Totally.
organization because they're going to help clone, right? So that's one thing. And the other one is, I think like you probably don't need a recruiter before you have like a few tens. And I'm saying, and it really depends on what kind of recruiter. You have all sorts of solutions today. You can get a part-time recruiter. You can get someone. I would bring a professional. I would say that because I think because those earlier hires have a lot of impact. Like choosing the wrong team will not help you
Yeah,
get funding, will not help you get this, whatever you're working on,
sure.
land. So it is really important, but there are different ways to get it. Like you don't have to hire someone full time, from the get go. But last thing, you even though it's tempting to bring only your friends, you should think about diversity and having a diverse team from the get go because it's very hard to turn around later.
So what do you mean by that?
I mean, like a
Explain
lot
more.
of times when you just start a company, like the easiest is like just bring over your friends and it's small numbers, right? Like who do you know?
Yep.
And typically in the early stages, you can have like 50% that come through the referrals even or more. And it's very tempting because it's the easiest.
Easiest.
It's
Yep.
like these are good people, you know them, you've vetted them. I say you have to, not rely only on that and try to bring people outside of your networks just because uh, like if you have like a very conformic like background for everyone the same, like just from the beginning, then it's very hard to turn around later on. So it's
Yeah, and
something
I'm
to
sure.
be
I
mindful
mean,
of.
I'm sure it's also very intimidating for a new person then to join. If
Right.
you walk in, and everybody's so united, and there's like cliques
Yes.
and groups, and they're speaking a different language, perhaps.
Yeah,
Uh,
so that's the downside.
yeah.
But yeah,
So
but I wouldn't say like you don't need, like if you're just in the garage, you probably don't need a recruiter yet, although
sure.
it's nice. Recruiters are great, but yeah.
Now, is there any so it doesn't end there? So is your role limited to from the moment that there is a job opening to the moment that you have somebody fill the job, or are you also in any shape or form in touch with the people within the company?
After they're hired, I would say, you know what? I have people who I hired many years ago. I won't say how many because that gives away my age, and I'm still in touch with them. Some of them became friends through the years,
Wow.
and of course, after you hire them and they work for you in the company, you stay in touch.
Sure.
You're sort of like their person. You brought them in. You started this off. Um, it's kind of like it changes with the kind of relationship you had with them through the
Sure.
process, but but you do have sometimes that that initial relationship. You kind of show them the door.
Yeah,
You're their ambassador, so they will still be in touch with you, and they will always like if you brought them someone they like, somewhere that they loved working for, they will probably remember that as a good thing.
definitely. So,
As
when we had coffee the other day, one of the things that you were, your eyes were shining as you were explaining to me how excited you are by the fact that you get to sort of invent new processes now at where you are at, and really bring on a personal impact from your experiences. So, what is it about this whole field that really excites you? Why are you really doing this?
there's so much that excites me. I think, first of all, I think it is an impactful field. Like you can actually make a difference by doing a good job in it. Like there are many
Yeah,
other areas, but that's what I know how to do, and I enjoy it very much. So I think I really love working with people and making a difference. So I feel like I have a real stake at the company. Like bringing the right people on board is like really, really something valuable to me and hopefully to the companies I work with.
sure.
And then the other piece is it's just an interesting job. It keeps changing. Uh, you have a lot of challenges. No day is the same. It's There's a little bit of a numbers game. It's a little bit competitive.
Yeah,
Uh,
yeah,
it's and then you have to learn all the time because things around you keep changing. And there's a lot of like one of the pieces I really love about it is it allows me to be in touch with a lot of people, and I enjoy that. So
yeah.
maybe if you're like an introvert, it's not a job for you, but I like it. I like having a big network and a lot of relationships, and it's just fun. Like I think it's a kind of like a good job because like finding people jobs is something that's usually makes them happy. So uh, and then
It's a
and
lot of
then
it's a
more
lot of
from like the talent
celebration, right?
acquisition management perspective, like working with management, with the leadership team to really like understand where the company is going, how can
Yes.
you add a competitive edge
Yes.
to it, like think like kind of like anticipating the future, thinking a few steps ahead. Where are things going? How can you help the business be ready? Just like making revenue. This is another like aspect. It costs a lot of money to have like the right people. How can you make like good choices that will last a long time and bring a lot of ROI to the business?
No, so one of the things I'm most interested in is also it's one thing to reach out to people on LinkedIn that have a title of software engineer at certain companies and reach out and say, hey, if you're
Mm-hmm.
ever interested, we have an opening for an
Mm-hmm.
engineering role here and here. Is this the same way that you hire also people, C-level and higher? Would the talent acquisition team also try to fill in the role of, let's say, a CFO or a, I don't know, another executive?
So it really depends. It's yes and no. I would say it takes a lot longer to
Oh yeah,
find
yeah, I'm sure.
a leadership candidate, and those relationships are a lot like it's a bigger stake in the company, so you want
Yes.
to be more thoughtful, and you probably uh I don't think there should be a difference, but in reality there is. So I think like every candidate needs to get like really really good treatment and like be really get like a white glove service. But when you're hiring leadership talent, then probably those jobs are never posted. I mean, no one would post they're looking for a CEO, you know, on the LinkedIn job board.
Yeah.
So typically that's more like, building those relationships that will help you find those opportunities. And it's more, I would say, like that demands also from the candidates a different mindset of
I'm
like
sure.
building your networks, being out there, being like in the right groups, in the right circles, like understanding your industry, not waiting until you actually have to find a job.
Yeah.
I speak a lot about this, but like from the like, of course, like I think more senior candidates get probably a more senior recruiter to talk to them. It will probably be you will go to great lengths to make things comfortable for them. You know, uh, not drag them over and over to the same place, and really try to create like a really great experience.
Yeah.
As I said, I think even if you're a software engineer, you need to get that from the organization. It is a challenge.
I'm sure. No, you know, I think it's just fascinating work, and I love the fact that we are maintaining this relationship, and I'm learning so much from you all the time. Before we leave, Efrat, I want you to tell me 3 words that you think best describe you.
Wow. Someone said feisty, not me.
Oh, I haven't heard that before. All right.
Curious.
Yeah.
And I think a people's person.
It definitely sounds like it. It sounds like that's a number 1 requirement here.
Yes.
Efrat, thank you very, very much.
Thank you.
It was wonderful.
To you and to Benny.
תודה רבה.